What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. How is everybody doing today? Yes, happy Wednesday. Happy, what do they call it? Hump day, whatever. It's weird. It's a weird one at the moment, isn't it? Because of the game being called off yesterday. I don't know about you. I'm like a little bit envious. I'm a little bit like jealous that everyone else is playing their games and everyone's got stuff to talk about and everyone's excited for getting into sort of the Christmas period of the Premier League calendar, the holiday period. Holiday football is kind of tradition, isn't it, over here in the UK, of just constant games and all that kind of stuff, and it's exciting. And at the moment, we don't have a lot to talk about when it comes to Manchester United, when it comes to actual action on the pitch because of the postponement yesterday. But what we do know is that Manchester United have returned to training. They returned to training today, so we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about a little bit of some transfer tidbits, shall we say. Some that's a bit of a reach, I think. Some that might be a bit of a lesser reach, but we'll see. We'll see. There's plenty. There's always something to talk about in the world of Manchester United, certainly, even if there's no game on. And of course, at the moment, there might not be a game on at the weekend either. We're going to talk on that as well. But as always, guys, smash a like on the video. Let me know where you're watching from. As Flex would always say, take your shoes off, relax. It is Wednesday. And you might have that sort of middle of the week feeling, or you got that feeling, like when you're at work and it's December and you start looking at the calendar and you're like, I've got about a week left. I've saved my holiday for the remainder of the year. I've got about a week left and then I can go. And that final sort of week can be a bit of a slog, can't it? It really can. But we've got plenty to talk about tonight. Stefan says, Mr. Reliable, good afternoon. Hassan says, RB Owen. That's kind of picked up. That's picked up more than I thought that would, to be honest. Like, I messaged, I'll tell you a little bit behind the scenes about that, about the Red Bull jacket. It's one of those things I just happen to have. I just happened to have. And after everything that happened at the weekend, I messaged Flex. And I was like, I think I've got something planned for this evening. He was like, what? I was like, don't worry about it. don't worry about it. And it got a reaction. It really got a reaction. I was, to be honest with you as well, I was like slightly concerned. I was like, how are people going to react to this? Is it going to be like, people are going to be like, that's too far? But the reaction was actually pretty good to it, which is I should expect from you guys. You guys are the best. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun, and people are still talking about it to today, which is always interesting. Before I get into it as well, I do want to kick things off by saying, obviously, Sergio Aguero announced his retirement from football today in that sort of emotional press conference he had in Barcelona. And I think that you have to remember that ultimately, we can talk about rival teams, we banter rival teams, and we talk about sporting disdain for rival clubs like Manchester United and Manchester City and Liverpool and all that kind of stuff. Sergio Aguero, irrespective of him playing for the club on the other side of the city, irrespective of the last-minute Aguero goal that wins them the title and costs us the title in 2012, it is sad to see someone's career end at the age of 33 due to a heart issue. Ultimately, safety is first, safety is paramount, and it's kind of like the recurring theme in what we're going to be talking about here. So obviously, heck of a career to him. And again, it doesn't matter about teams or anything like that. It doesn't matter about that. All that matters is safety of the players and safety of the families involved and all that kind of stuff. So credit to that, absolutely. But let's get into the news. So, of course, as you can see on the thumbnail, it says that Manchester United return to training today. This was reported, it's been widely reported, but it was reported in this instance from Tyrone Marshall from the Manchester Evening News. Said Manchester United players reported for training at Carrington at 11 a.m. this morning and had to undergo coronavirus tests before entering. But the story does continue. Again, in this same report from Tyrone Marshall of the Manchester Evening News, he said Manchester United are keeping the Premier League informed over their status of their squad. They remain in regular dialogue with the league after Tuesday's game was postponed due to said COVID-19 outbreak. Continuing, he also said, while Manchester United are stressing that it's too early for a decision to be made over the Brighton match, sources don't expect the situation within the squad to have improved by then. So, there's there's a lot there, isn't there? I've seen, first of all, about this whole outbreak and the game being postponed yesterday. The one thing I will say, and this is just me, people will have different opinions to this, obviously. You see it on social media. I'm surprised by some of the Man United fans' reaction, kind of going in on the club or going in on the players. We would have had a big enough squad to play that game. We should have played that game, etc., etc. And my reaction to that is, it's not about that. It's not about that. It's about the safety and well-being of the players, of the staff, of everyone involved at the club, and their wider families as well. And I don't want to get too political, obviously, because it's not the show for that. We're talking about football here. But that's the point. We're talking about football here. And as I mentioned when it comes to Sergio Aguero, the health and safety of the players and the staff and everyone that was going to be in Brentford Stadium on Tuesday is paramount. And if Manchester United or anyone couldn't guarantee the safety or well-being, then the game shouldn't go ahead. The game shouldn't go ahead. And we've seen a lot over the last sort of 24 hours, 48 hours or so of people just sort of, I don't want to say making stuff up, but just sort of widely throwing things out there that are proven not to be accurate about how, people going, they should tell us. They should tell us the players. They should tell the players that have tested positive. Why? Why should they tell us that? If the shoe was on the other foot, if you yourself had tested positive, would you want everyone to know? If you want everyone to know, that's your prerogative to tell, but it's not someone else's story to tell. It's not someone else's job or someone else's responsibility to tell everyone your medical records. It's confidentiality for a reason. It's none of our business. None of our business. Which players, which staff members, anyone who tested positive. It's none of our business. In the same way that you can't walk into a doctor's and just go, "What's wrong with you? You have to tell me. I have a divine right to know." No, we don't. They don't. And again, it's all about health and safety and well-being of the players. And people going, only staff members have it. But then it comes out and it says that players have it as well. And it's just, you don't know the situation. And again, I go back to Antonio Conte when Spurs had their outbreak, whenever it was, last week or whenever. He spoke about it so well when he said that the concerning thing for him, he says, "Look, I'm a football manager and I'm going to work every day. But I have to worry about going home after work because I've got a daughter and I've got a wife at home and I've got family. I don't want to be putting them in danger." And you might say, oh, you're being melodramatic, you're being over the top. But we don't know that. We don't know that. And, and again, he's like he said as well, some people test positive and you go, okay, they're isolating for 10 days or they're away from the squad or whatever. You train that day and everyone that trains tests negative, but then the next day or even later that day, they're testing positive again. And like he says, and then you don't know, and you're living in this constant state of paranoia because you're like, I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but of all of this kind of stuff. And again, people can moan and people can complain, "Oh, football, I wanted to see a football match." And then you have to kind of backtrack. If that's your mentality, again, it's your prerogative, it's your opinion. But if that's your mentality of, "Oh, I wanted to watch a football match today," then you have to reestablish your opinions and say what you wanted to watch a football match, irrespective of someone's health and well-being. We're humans at the end of the day. We have to understand the human value of this. And understand that, we're talking about humans' health and safety here. And that should always be paramount, irrespective of football. I know I'm on a fan channel, I'm on a football channel, but it's true. It's just football at the end of the day. It really is. It's just football at the end of the day. And nobody should have to jeopardize their health and safety and well-being for a football match. Nobody. Absolutely not. And we certainly shouldn't be subject to people saying things that aren't true or exaggerating things when they don't understand the whole facts, all that kind of stuff. These are human beings at the end of the day. They're not robots. They might be well paid human beings, but they're still human beings. And the idea that, Manchester United, what we scared to play Brentford? No disrespect to Brentford, but we do have a large squad. But again, this is about containing things. And people can say, what about the fixture list? Or it's going to be congested, all that kind of stuff. Maybe it is. We're living in quite uncertain times at the moment that we haven't had to deal with before. Things come up and things happen that we don't really expect, and we have to find ways to manage them and deal with them. The managing of it isn't just to shout at people because a game went off. That's just the thing. That's just the thing. And again, that's my opinion. That's my opinion on things. And if you've got a different one, you're absolutely entitled to. I'm not going to argue or disrespect you for having an opinion at all, but I've just been kind of surprised, and maybe I'll get off of my soapbox a little bit here, but I've just been kind of surprised on the amount of people willing to go in on the players and the club for essentially protecting their staff. And their families. How dare you? How dare you take a humanistic approach in these kind of things? You know, we talk and get outraged about the money. We talk and get outraged about the money involved in football, and that they don't think about X, Y, and Z, and then they do think about people for a second, and people get angry. Now, the point I will absolutely will agree with people is that the game, the Brentford game, when was it called off? Like 5 to midnight? That is unacceptable, because I think everyone could have told you at 6 p.m. or even earlier than that game was going to be off. So why it took them that long, and you didn't think of the fans in terms of people that had travelled, that were going to be travelling down to the game or up to the game, wherever you travel from, or booking hotels, booking days off work, etc. I'm with you. That's poor communication. I don't know if even Manchester United totally can be blamed for that, because I'm pretty sure they stated their intentions very clearly to the Premier League, and the Premier League waited, and ultimately that decision was made late on. Again, that's communication, and that should fall on the Premier League ultimately. But again, this idea of, okay, let's blame the players, or let's blame the club for protecting their players, I think it's crazy. I really do. Super chat from Red Baron, appreciate the contribution. Says, really on point, Owen. People can't accept reality, so they throw a hissy fit. I mean, I don't even know if it's necessarily that. I mean, it's just, again, I struggle myself. I would struggle myself as someone that I always, with these kind of things, like to think of, if it was me, if I was a player, or if I was even a family member or anything like that, how would I feel? And I would ultimately, I'd want the best for my family. I'd want the best for my co-workers. I'd want to ensure that everyone is as safe as possibly can be, and certainly not risking it for a football match. But we'll have to wait and see. When it comes to the game at the weekend, against Brighton, as the report has kind of said that United are stressing it's too early for a decision to be made. They don't expect the situation rather to improve between now and the weekend. I've seen a lot of people going, but they're in training today, and all this kind of stuff. As I mentioned before, they're in training today. They tested everyone that took part in training. Obviously, tested negative today, but kind of the issue over the course of the last 3 or 4 days or so has been that these confirmed cases have been kind of increasing every day. You know, more and more people are getting sent home, to the point they had to close down operations on Monday, 24 hours prior to the game. And I think that's what United mean by this situation is improving by then. Again, you know, this is novel. It's a novel virus in the sense that you don't know too much about it, and especially with, you know, variants and all this kind of stuff. And again, I'm no expert, but you're having issues where people are testing negative one day, training, testing positive the next day. That's a problem. And those confirmed cases start to continue, and people can talk about large squads. And I know people have used this NFL analogy. That works for the NFL, but the NFL, I'm kind of done comparing the NFL to English football, because it's completely different. First of all, it's a completely different sport, but also the NFL is a franchise model. Every side is, you know, incredibly wealthy, and there's not really any ramifications on that league in general. The Premier League is completely different. You know, you have sides in the Premier League that obviously don't have as much money as the others. They don't have as big squads, and people are saying you just have to have bigger squads and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't work like that. Brentford, they don't even have an academy. So do they have under 23s or under 18s teams? So people are saying get under 18 or under 23 players. They can't do that either. So it's one of those things. And again, I know it's a controversial subject, so I don't want to, you know, go too deep on it or anything like that, because I know people have different opinions on it. But the only thing I would say, and that's kind of been my point to it all, is that, again, it's football. It's a game of football at the end of the day. And people can talk about congested fixture lists and pile-ups and all that kind of stuff. They'll find a way to sort it. It's football. Most important thing is health and safety. And as a Manchester United fan, certainly, I would want all the players, the staff, and everyone associated with Manchester United to be as healthy as possible. And that's kind of the situation. As far as the game at the weekend, of course I hope it's on. I love seeing Manchester United play, and I hope to see them play at the weekend. I just hope that it's in a situation whereby it's as healthy and stable as possible. We don't really know. we don't really know. Again, the positives I think should be that these testing mechanisms are in place for a reason. They managed to get football back up and underway with Project Restart in 2020, which was, given the height of the pandemic at the time, was almost a minor miracle. And these testing situations are in place for a reason. And these rules are in place for a reason. Obviously, I've seen stuff today saying that the Premier League aren't going to be allowing further games to be postponed and all that kind of stuff. I think it will change. I think it will change all the time, because it's going to have to be a case-by-case basis. I really think so. Red Baron says, from the football view, why aren't people focusing on the positives of this? More time with Ralph and less time with the stain of Ollie equals better. I don't, Red Baron, I appreciate the contribution as always. I don't think it's really about that. I don't think it's about that. I don't think, again, I don't even really focus on that. Oh, it's a good time for us to prepare because, frankly, we shouldn't need extra time to prepare. We shouldn't be afraid of Brentford and all that kind of stuff. We didn't play well against Norwich, but we certainly wouldn't, I would hope not, use an excuse like the pandemic as an excuse to call off a game or anything like that. And, talking about extra time on the training pitch, there's people away from it. So there's always going to be issues with stuff like that as well. But as they've said, I think it's going to be a situation that's going to continue to persist. Spurs, I think, are still dealing with it now. Obviously, was it the Watford versus Burnley game was called off as well of it? As we get more into these December days and with all of this news going on and more restrictions, I have a feeling that more games are going to be called off. And that's doing a season in the pandemic also, isn't it? That's part of the problem there. But let's switch from that and talk about some transfer stories. I do want to talk about a couple of transfer stories today as well. As I mentioned, there's not a ton really going on because the major, sort of more dominating story is the outbreak at Manchester United, the return to training. One story that was interesting is this Antonio Rudiger story. Now, of course, Rudiger's contract, when does that expire? The end of the season? He's been locked in contract negotiations with Chelsea, since they won the Champions League last season. And it's been like their version of the Pogba kind of pantomime, isn't it? That it goes on and on and on and on and on. And I believe, similarly to the Pogba situation at United, and I'm not saying they're similar players by any stretch of the imagination, but there is like an offer from Chelsea on the table, but Rudiger is yet to sign. So a story came out yesterday, came from Sky Sports News, but Sky Sports News in Germany, that Manchester United had entered the, quote, transfer poker to sign Chelsea's Antonio Rudiger. Now, this was then followed up by German journalist Christian Falk, who said, quote, true, Manchester United is interested in Antonio Rudiger. Ralf Rangnick knows his agent and brother Zar Sensi very well and signalled willingness to negotiate. Now, I will say, when it comes to Christian Falk, obviously, at one point, Christian Falk had a ton of credibility, and he lost a lot of it. A lot of it when it came to the whole Ralf Rangnick stuff with Manchester United. Christian Falk said that it was literally I want to say a day or 48 hours before Ralf Rangnick, the story of Ralf Rangnick coming to Manchester United was broken by The Athletic. Christian Falk said, no, Ralf Rangnick isn't going to become Manchester United interim manager. He had talks with the club in 2019. They didn't go well. He's not interested, etc., etc. And then, of course, 48 hours later, The Athletic goes, Ralf Rangnick is set to become Manchester United's interim manager. So he had to take a massive L on that one. And obviously, when you're a journalist, you live or die by how accurate your reporting is. And if you say, nope, not going to happen, and then something happens, doesn't look good. So I'm sorry, Christian, if I look at this and go, there's a whiff of bullshit around this one. And to be honest, the Rudiger thing, I saw a point on this on social media earlier, and it's so true. It's so true. You kind of just get linked. Like, for instance, so when we had Louis van Gaal as the manager, if you were Dutch, you were coming to Manchester United. If you read the papers, if you were Dutch, you were coming to Manchester United. When Jose Mourinho was in charge, if you were Portuguese, you were coming to Manchester United. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, even that case, we got a link with Haaland. We got a link with, I think, at one point Odegaard as well. Any Norwegian player that was half decent probably got linked with United at some point. And now you've got Rangnick in interim charge. If you're German or you play in the Bundesliga, you're coming to Manchester United. When it comes to Rudiger, whenever I've heard this before, I would be very surprised. If I'm Antonio Rudiger, obviously Manchester United is a big club. Can United offer him more wages than Chelsea? I mean, they probably, Man United and Chelsea have the same potential to offer him similar wages. You know, you could say historically Manchester United's a bigger club than Chelsea. But in terms of stuff in, you know, more recent history, Chelsea won the Champions League last season. They're contending for the league this season. If you were Rudiger, what would interest you in coming to United, certainly at the moment? It would almost kind of have to be money and the project. We don't really know what the project is at Manchester. I'm a Man United fan. I don't really know what the project is at the moment. I don't even know who the manager is going to be next season. Money, again, I think if push come to shove, Chelsea would probably give him money. I, as a United fan, worry. I really do worry because we've been in this situation before where a player based in England, their contract's coming up and we get into this bidding war over wages and Chelsea are willing to offer him X amount of wages and we're willing to offer him way more. And then they come to the club and they're already on the decline. Alexis Sanchez, does that sound familiar to you? Exactly. So, yeah. Again, I struggle to believe it, and again, I don't mean it as a put down to United or anything like that. I really don't mean it as a put down to United, but I look at it and go, why would he want to come? Why would he want to come to us? And maybe it would be a Ralf Rangnick thing. Maybe Ralf Rangnick does know his agent and his brother, and maybe Ralf Rangnick is willing to sort of turn his head. But also as well, again, reportedly, lots of clubs are very interested in him as well. I think ultimately, to be honest with you, if he's going to be in England, I expect him to be at Chelsea. I think, to be honest with you, if he doesn't sign a contract with Chelsea and he decides to go abroad, then anything's possible. He could go to PSG, he could go to Real Madrid or what have you. But staying in England and going to United, I would be very surprised. I don't even know if he really fits Man United. You know, a lot of people are saying actually him in a back four, does that necessarily work? He's maybe better in a back three as well. I don't know. I look at this thing and when I saw it, I don't buy it. I really don't buy it. And I might be proven wrong, but yeah, I'm just not sure if I see this one, and it'll be interesting to think what you think as well. It'll be interesting to think what you think about this. But my initial reaction, and that's sometimes what you got to go with these kind of transfer things. You'll say a name, you go Rudiger to United, you go no, surely not. No, I would be very surprised. Super chat from Ray Diaz. Appreciate the contribution. Ray says, Ranić's MO was to go younger and develop. I know United is different, but spending high on Rudiger isn't consistent with that. This is agent work. Yeah, I agree. I remember as well, you also have to recall this. This is someone that is negotiating at the moment. If you're an agent and you're negotiating to get what you want or what your player wants, whether it's wages, whether it's whatever, maybe it's an extra year on the contract that Chelsea are unwilling to give him, what do you start doing? You start saying other clubs are interested. Well, Man United want him, or Real Madrid want him, or PSG want him, all this kind of stuff. Of course you would do that. You know, and it feels like a negotiating tactic. Ultimately, I expect Rudiger to stay at Chelsea. I do. And again, if he did decide that he wanted to leave on a free transfer, I don't see it to United. I really don't. I would see it as I would see it him going abroad somewhere, but certainly wouldn't see him going to United. Also, as well, from a Man United point of view, where does he necessarily fit? I mean, obviously he's better than Harry Maguire, I think. You know, but we've got a load of centre-backs at the club, and what would it even mean for Harry Maguire if Rudiger came in? So you also have to think of that as well. I think it's unlikely, I do. Speaking of those transfers, this was an interesting story that I wanted to touch on. And this came from Mike McGrath of the Daily Telegraph, who said Manchester United are likely to continue with the, quote, cultural reboot under Solskjaer, where the club targeted international class players but moved away from marquee signings. Now, I saw that and I was like, what? What? We moved away from marquee signings. Are you shitting me? We moved away from marquee signings. Look who we bought in the last transfer window. Varane, Sancho, Ronaldo. They're three pretty marquee signings. Any one of them would just be like one marquee signing for most clubs around the world. So I don't understand what cultural reboot they're kind of talking about there, because the end of that story contradicts the opening of that story. Now, I understand what they're saying in that prior to this year's transfer window, we had kind of steered away from going what we had done sort of post Alex Ferguson. We start just buying Falcao, or you start just getting, Di Maria, or you start just going for these big players. But that summer when we just got like Galactico Manchester United, was it Van Gaal's first season? And at one point we had a front four of like Rooney, Van Persie, Falcao, Di Maria. Was ridiculous. And it didn't work out. And we have kind of steered away from that, or like Alexis Sanchez and all that kind of thing. Like they're saying those, and I guess they're meant to be marquee signings. But again, I look at the past transfer window, and I think it contradicts that. I think what they're trying to say is that United are certainly under Solskjaer, the first 2 years certainly there was this attempt of trying to sign players that were, I suppose, on the way up, as opposed to either at their peak or the way down. But again, I find that kind of ironic because it's Tellers' birthday today. We signed Tellers when he was, 27? Like 28? So again, that's not someone that's really on the way up. That is someone that's at their peak as well. So I do think United's transfer philosophy, I will give them some bit of credit, has sort of switched slightly over the last few years. But the idea that Manchester United have moved away from marquee signings is laughable. It is absolutely laughable that United have moved away from marquee signings, especially when we had a transfer window that signs Varane, Ronaldo and Sancho. Bear in mind that Sancho's young, but Varane's, how old's Varane, 28? He's certainly at his peak. Ronaldo's, of course, 36. Sancho's young as well. But yeah, and like the year prior, we signed Cavani on a free transfer. Pretty marquee as well. So the idea that Manchester United have moved away from marquee signings, I just sort of went, no, we haven't. no, we haven't. They might try and convince themselves that they have, but they have not. They have not. And again, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing in that all of those have been bad signings, because they haven't. But I just saw that and went, what? It's one of those like head shakers. By the way, we nearly got nearly 500 people watching. Only 144 likes. Josh will be in the chat in a second telling me to pause the stream. Smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. See if we can get it up to 250, 300. That's what you got to do. You got to take your shoes off. Show a bit of love to the algorithm. It's vengeful. Yeah, it is. And Josh said, disgrace. As Ty would say, an absolute disgrace. Obama who? Obama, you're an absolute disgrace. Smash a like on the like button. Speaking of transfers, and we'll wrap it up with this one, because it'll only be a short one tonight, because again, there's not loads going on. But we'll be back tomorrow. I know Flex is doing something tomorrow here on the channel. Friday, we'll have press conference and match preview. Again, we don't really know what's going to be going on Saturday in terms of the match, but that's the plan for that. So today's going to be a bit of a short one. But yes, the Red Bull RB Leipzig player, affectionately known as Amadou, as KG would say, hairdryer, has been talking. I felt quite bad because I put in the live chat yesterday on the Flex and KG show, and by the way, watch it. It was tremendous. Where Flex is asking him, what do you think about this player? And he goes, what's his name? KG goes, hairdryer. And I put in the chat, KG's just calling him hairdryer because he wants to use a hairdryer for the first time. And as soon as I pressed send on that one, I sort of went, that one might be a bit harsh. As far as I'm aware, he can't help that he's bald. So I felt a little bit bad for that one. So if you are watching KG, apologise. I apologies on my part. It was a bold joke. That's low hanging fruit, isn't it? That's low hanging fruit. I shouldn't go there. But let's just continue calling him it. Amadou Hairdryer said has been talking about the rumours linking him to United because, of course, as I mentioned before, if you're German or you're a Leipzig player, you are linked to Manchester United. But this one does have a bit of credibility because there's been lots of rumours linking him to Manchester United. He has been talking to the press about these rumours linking him to United. He said, quote, Ralf Rangnick plays a very big role in my career. Don't forget, when Leipzig wanted to get me, I tore my cruciate ligaments, but Ralf said that I should come anyway. I wouldn't have expected that back then. Furthermore, he admitted that he's a big fan of Manchester United. He said, everyone had a favourite team as a kid. Mine was Manchester United. I was a big fan of Cristiano Ronaldo. I like Scholes, Evra, Van der Sar. I was shocked by this last name he put in there. Anderson. Now, don't get me wrong. Anderson won a lot at Man United. He did. He won Premier Leagues. Was he in the squad at that point when we won the Champions League in 2008? I know he came during that period of time. I don't know if it's after the Champions League or before. I want to say it's after. I might be wrong. I might be wrong on that one. It might be before. Either way, Anderson did win a lot at United, but to call him a Manchester United legend. But he liked, in fairness, he said he liked Ronaldo, liked Scholes, Evra, Van der Sar, Anderson. He also continued, if you want to talk to me about rumours, I'm up Leipzig and I feel good. Sparky MUC Riley said, yes, he scored a penalty in the shoot. Of course he did, yeah, of course. Yeah, I recall that. I couldn't. Oh God, I nearly smashed this over. I just couldn't recall. I'm all over the place. I just couldn't recall if he did or didn't. But yes, Anderson, fair play. So he said that he's a fan of Manchester United as well. I think he's the perfect. He's certainly a player that fits. He's certainly a player that fits. In how Ralf Rangnick wants to play. He's certainly a player that wants to fit in how Ralf Rangnick wants to play. Now, again, are United, I don't know if, this is the thing, I don't know if we're going to do a ton of business in January, I know, in terms of incomings. As far as exits, maybe. I think in terms of exits, we could be doing some people going out the door, of course. Lingard, Henderson, the list goes on. But as far as, I feel really bad that I forgot he scored a penalty now. That's so terrible, Owen. Because as soon as everyone said that, I absolutely recall. It's shocking. Shocking. It's poor. But yes, going back, I think it would be a great fit for how Rangnick wants to play football. I think, obviously, you've seen that Fred and McTominay have been some of United's standout players, really. In how Rangnick wants to play in that 4-2-2, in those sixes, he wants to have energy. He wants to have box to box. He wants to have people that are going to close it down and win the ball back. And I think he does that. And I think that kind of the problem is, and we've kind of seen it in some of Rangnick's team selection so far, or certainly in the game. If Fred and McTominay aren't fit, who in the United squad can kind of really do that job the way that Rangnick wants them to do it? I'm not sure. People will say Donny. We kind of saw him in a deeper role against young boys, and I'm going to be totally brutally honest. I don't know if he really set the world alight in that deeper role. I think maybe going forward, he might have to be in those two wider roles in the 4-2-2. So maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe he's looking at that, and we know we've said we needed a defence midfielder for ages. We've said that we needed a defence midfielder this past summer, didn't we? So I think he could be a player that certainly I think could come in for United. But again, I wouldn't be shocked. I really, really wouldn't be shocked if we come out of January and we haven't got anyone. I really wouldn't. Again, I think the major sort of dealings in Manchester United's transfer business in January is going to be all about outgoings. And I think those outgoings will probably be Dean Henderson. I think he'll go out, I don't know, permanently. I think maybe on loan. Permanently, I'm not sure. But I think he'll leave. Jesse Lingard looks to be like he's going to be out the door as well. I mean, even Donny might be on the way out. I mean, it doesn't look like under Rangnick things have really changed for him that much either in terms of being a starter. So I think we're going to be looking at outgoings, and maybe those outgoings will facilitate the incomings. I mean, people are talking about Anthony Martial. Is he going to be outgoing in January as well? That's a possibility too. That's absolutely is a possibility too. I saw something the other day about Martial saying that Atletico Madrid were interested in a swap deal with Manchester United. Now, who that swap would be for, I don't know. We've heard those rumours of João Felix. Would you be open to a João Felix-Anthony Martial swap? Would there be funds involved in that as well? Or would it be a straight swap? I don't know. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think January is going to be more centred around the outgoings as opposed to the incomings. But as KG would say, hair dryer, I think could be a possibility to come in as well. But again, that's January. And I know it's only a couple of weeks away, and I'm sure Manchester United are probably looking at their targets for it right now and having discussions about it right now. But it just feels like a million years away already, doesn't it? But it will creep up to us certainly very quickly, as opposed to the more immediate future. The more immediate future is about, are we going to have a game on Saturday? I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know. We'll have to wait and see. As I said earlier on, and it was kind of what we opened on, so we'll finish on it. Things are just kind of evolving very quickly when it comes to all of this at the moment, isn't it? And we don't really know that much about it, especially when it comes to the Premier League. And the Premier League can say, oh, we're not going to allow clubs to postpone games and all that kind of stuff. But we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, guys, we're only 7 likes away from 200 likes. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. A lot of people are saying, yes, Felix. David Lee, big up the moderators as always. Big up David Lee. Says, I don't think so. Kotso says, give me Felix. Brutos says, swap Martial for Koke. Yeah, good player. Good player. And he might fit in the Rangnick system as well. This is kind of the thing as well with United. I think Rangnick's going to be certainly influential on it because he's going to have this assessment period now of the players trying this 4-2-2, and he's going to sort of see, can these players play there, or do we have to do a bit of business in January? Ultimately, I don't think United would want to be spending a ton of money in January because they did spend money in the summer as well. But we do have this sort of pot, I suppose, for this midfielder that we have been chasing. Who that midfielder is, we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure, and this is why I say January feels like a million years away anyway, between now and January the 1st, we will still be linked with about 10 million players. Because that's what United do. And it's not even Man United's fault. That's just how big the club is. That's how big the club is, that United will get linked to every player under the sun between now and January. And you kind of just have to enjoy it. Because it's part of the circus. It's part of the circus at Manchester United. Anyway, guys, look. As mentioned, going to be a bit of a short one tonight, so hope you're having a good Wednesday. As I mentioned, tomorrow, Flex will be on tomorrow, covering the latest news and happenings in the world of Manchester United. Friday, as I mentioned, I'll be back for a Ralph Rangnick press conference, which are just such a joy to watch, these press conferences now. They're very enjoyable, very educational. It feels like I'm back at school all over again. I feel like I should be in a lecture theatre taking notes. Or, I was a doodler. I was a doodler in the lecture theatre. I was not much, because I'm not going to go on this tangent, but nowadays at university, you go to lectures, and at the end of it, they'll go, all of the slides and the lecture, which is being recorded right now, is going up online. Why do I need to be here then? So frustrating, but it's another discussion for another time. Anyway, guys, look, have a good Wednesday. I'll see you on Friday. Flex will be back tomorrow. I'll speak to you again very, very soon.